welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about Dragon's Dogma 2. Or,
Wait a minute, hold on.
I mean, The Elder Scrolls Online.
Take two.
No, that's the take. That's the take.
That's the one.
I'm Ket. Joining me, as always, of course, is Davius. How's it going, man?
In case you didn't know, I was already here. I'm supposed to be quiet during that part. I'm never very good at it.
Don't speak unless spoken to. I've told you that 100 times on this podcast.
Would you zip it? Zip it, Davius.
We're running a tight ship here on Scrollin'.
Jeez. I'm always just the jibber jabber.
It's the behind the scenes of Scrollin'. People don't really realize I'm a tyrant when it comes to the podcast.
Davius usually hits like 10,000 words, but after editing, really like to trim him down to that 50 to 55.
Yeah, we go for the shotgun approach. You just say a bunch of stuff, and if we get like 3 hours of audio, surely we'll get like 15 good minutes out of that.
I actually don't even say anything coherent. You just have me read a bunch of random words, and you just piece it all together to make it make sense.
Yeah, I actually several years ago I paid you to just read the dictionary beginning to end, and that's it. I just arrange those words every episode. For your part.
You actually haven't talked to me for years. Like you
we have not spoken. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah,
actually,
you have no idea what I'm up to lately.
Well, okay, we do have some Elder Scrolls Online business to discuss.
Yes, absolutely.
We're like knee deep into this update 41 patch here, and we've talked all about it. I figure we can kind of do a final assessment of update 41. We've talked about it lots of times, but I think at this point we have a really firm, good understanding of where we're at here.
Yeah, I think so.
So combat and balance-wise, really overall, I think things are pretty good. How are you feeling about things? In BGs, things are feeling pretty good to you? You seeing a lot of variety out there?
I feel like variety's good. I feel pretty good about it. If you're really going to twist my arm, and I sense that you are.
I was about to.
I could sense it. I would say it's still a little tanky for my taste, but it's in a good spot.
I kind of get the feeling that's the way Zos wants it. I feel like they want people who maybe aren't PvP mains to be able to jump into a BG and have a good time.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that.
But I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm right there with you. I like squishier metas. I like metas where people are building for damage and dying a lot more. Mm-hmm. But I think, a good thing happening right now is there really is really great like class diversity and build variety. You're seeing a lot of different kinds of builds and stuff out there, which is really good.
Yeah.
A lot of Sorks and Nightblades. I think that's what we were expecting going into this is they're very, very dominant.
Yeah.
They're doing great. I mean, there's super fun classes to play. And, it feels normal to me, like in PvP for Sorks and Nightblades to be up there. That's kind of where they belong.
That's the classic. Those two up near the top.
Yeah, exactly. And they're kind of arch rivals in my mind, Sorks and Nightblades. Dragon Knights seems like they've fallen down the totem pole just a little bit, in my view.
It's a tough time to be a DK. You can still have fun with them. Like, they're still competitive, but it's a little tough.
Oh yeah, the power is still there. I think it's just they don't have that like easy crutch like a lot of other classes have, and I think Arcanist challenges them a lot because a lot of the value that a DK brings, an Arcanist can also bring, and it's just a much easier class to play. For someone who maybe doesn't have the skill or experience, you can just kind of jump in there and be successful right away. A DK, the power is there, but it's kind of a hard class to learn, and you kind of have to main it for a while and figure it out and get good at it. That's really what makes the class so rewarding, but it's also, I think, what makes people bounce over to an Arcanist.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time with this kind of meta, with the statuses and the dots and all that kind of stuff. It's ironic because that's their style of offense.
That is.
But they struggle against that kind of stuff because they don't really have super strong healing over time. That's the main thing. Like they have great burst heals.
They don't have the defense for that. That is their offense, but they don't have the defense kind of built in their toolkit for it.
Right. Like, even a Nightblade, I think, is better equipped to deal with this kind of meta than a DK is because they have so many sources, potentially so many sources of heals over time and stuff to sort of nullify those dots and stuff. So I think that's the main thing.
I think the DK's hurt too with the DK's always been like the just right on the edge of always painful sustain. Like all of their abilities are really expensive. And this dot meta right now does like that's a struggle because like you said, they don't have a good heal over time. And then all of their like even the heals they have and the abilities they have are so expensive. So you can't really last. You can't spam those abilities. You can't use those. It needs to be kind of more strategic with their sustain levels. So I think that
you have this really strong, really expensive burst heal with coagulating blood, but you're having to hammer that thing so often.
Yeah.
Because you don't have those hots and stuff. So yeah, you will. You'll just burn through that sustain so quick.
Yeah. And like you said, Nightblades, I think they've got great hots and their heals are almost, their burst heal is almost free. So it's a different situation.
Yeah. And that's odd, because it seems like not how it should be. Like Nightblade should be the one that struggles. DK should be the hardy one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Necro's still bad.
We can't have too much change, all right? We need some consistency. Like, we've got to have that foundation to all, to build on. And Necro being bad that's that foundation.
Yeah, nothing's changed for them. They got a couple of new toys to play with, but it hasn't actually fixed any of the problems they have. You don't see any more Necros than we have been up to this point. Not to say you can't make a good Necro build, but yeah, it's just kind of the same old, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Balance overall feels pretty good. We see a pretty good amount of variety, weighted towards Sorks and Nightblades. There's a fair amount of those, but really overall we see quite a few classes out there. A lot of Wardens, a lot of Arcanists for sure. And DKs and Necros are down towards the bottom, and Templars, kind of how that's been for a long time. Templars are kind of right in the middle there.
Yeah.
My assessment of the content for Update 41, it's a dungeon pack. My expectations are not very high for dungeon packs, and they were not met. I feel like the content release is pretty weak.
Yeah.
I'm not really a dungeon person, so they're not really trying to impress me with that, but I was not super impressed.
Yeah, not a lot going on, right? It feels like there's it's been pretty flatline. And I guess my thing for that is it really, I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on this upcoming actual expansion release and the spell crafting and all of that. I feel like it's crazy. It seems like it flies by, but at the same time, I do feel like that we found out about spell crafting so long ago that I do feel like it's kind of built up a lot of pressure for there to be a lot with that.
Yeah, and I was just kind of expecting it to be more like, this Gold Road chapter coming up. It has a very striking visual aesthetic to it, and I was kind of expecting these dungeons to maybe tie into that at least somewhat and to give us a little taste, but they just seem very vanilla to me, but that's okay. A lot of the new sets seem really good. I've been seeing them in BGs. I haven't really used them any of them really myself.
Yeah.
But I am seeing them quite a bit out there. A lot of them are very, very good. That what's that one? Tarnished Nightmare.
Yeah.
Like the shattering glass thing. I'm seeing that a lot.
Popular one.
And this new mythic, I'd love to give a final assessment on the Torque of the Last Alien King. But that's just not possible. Because I have been thwarted by Orangina.
The grind continues. How many leads do you have now? What's the lead update on how many you have?
Well, last time we talked, it was 2, and now I have 2.
All right.
Which now, in fairness, I since the last time we talked, I've actually been taking a bit of a break from ESO, largely because of the frustration over grinding for this lead, and that just so happens to coincide with a really awesome video game that's come out that's kind of taking my attention. So I might have more leads than that if I'd been sticking with it, but it's been such a frustrating experience trying to get that thing, and the fact that it's every single lead is in the Infinite Archive, so it's not like, okay, all I have to do is just get this one lead and I can move on. No, then I have to get another one, and then I have to get another one.
I think that's
all in the same place.
That's the tough part, because usually when you're farming for a mythic, there's always at least usually like 1 or 2 leads that are like, all right, these are pretty low hanging fruit. I can handle getting these. This isn't going to be too bad. And then there's usually always 1, or 2, or sometimes even 3 that are like, all right, these are going to be a pain. Like I'm going to have to do some farming. But I think that's the understated part to this, is that all 5, like even when you get 1 that's not really much excitement because you were only 20% of the way. So like every single one is going to have to be through one of the runs. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's really never a moment where you feel like that sense of relief or that excitement, like, yes, I got one, because it's just like, well, still got to keep going. Got to keep going.
Moving.
Yeah. So it was super frustrating, and I really got to a point where I was like, man, forget this. I'm done. Dragon's Dogma 2 just came out. It looked really cool, and I was already thinking about checking it out anyway, and just this whole Mythic thing was really frustrating me. So I was like, yeah, it's a good time to take a break. I haven't taken a break since Elden Ring. That was 2 years ago.
Another game that pulled you away.
Yeah, I've been playing the Elder Scrolls Online every day since then, so it's time for a break. It's good to do that once in a while. So yeah, that's kind of the final assessment of Update 41. According to my calculations, I think PTS for the Gold Road chapter is like 3 weeks away.
Perfect time. Like I'm ready to move on to next steps, I feel like.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. June 3rd is the PC release, and PTS is always a 6-week cycle, so if we count back from there, that should be not next Monday, not the Monday after that, but the Monday after that.
Yeah, and then we'll
have PTS for this thing. And I'm sure there'll be some sort of like preview stream leading up to that and stuff too.
I feel like it's going to be a pretty wild PTS, right? Because the spellcrafting is going to be...
Surely that's going to be just nuts.
Yeah, just wild. Wild PTS.
We were expecting the Arcanist class to get dropped into the game and really shake things up big time, but it really wasn't the case. I wonder if this will be a similar thing where like, oh, no way, man, this is going to break the game, but actually everything's just kind of the same.
That's a great point.
Because, they did all this work of, what we call spreadsheet balancing, of standardizing every ability in the game. So if they just kind of carry that on into spellcrafting where everything is standardized, might not be so crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. They've really gotten to a point where things are pretty polished by the time they hit PTS.
I think where we might run into is like certain classes might be balanced for the fact that they don't have access to certain things, and if this is something that gives them access to that thing without them having to really sacrifice anything important, then we might start seeing some imbalances there. And I could definitely see there being some blind spots on the development team in that regard.
I'll tell you right now, I'm hoping for somehow to get access to a cleanse on a DK.
That'd be nice.
That's what I want.
What I want is something that gives me snare removal and is like, so for old Betsy, she has those 3 stacking AoE pulses on her. If I could replace one of those with another AoE pulse that also gives me snare removal, that's what I want.
That'd be the sweet spot. That's not. I don't think that's asking too much, right? Like,
no,
that's not too
surely
bad.
That's doable.
Yeah.
Brandon, FK, Grizzly Khan, King Nar, Uncle Sam, all in the chat. Thanks for being here tonight, guys. Good to see you all.
Got a party.
We do, a bit of a party. So yeah, if we're correct about that, then that means the PTS is going to be dropping on an off week. So we'll be jumping in on week 2 to talk about that here on the Scroll On Podcast. However, if you want to hear my thoughts on the week 1 patch notes early, you can go to patreon.com/scrollonpodcast and sign up to receive what's it called? Stoon's Boon for $3 a month. And that gets you access to the Booncast, which is a shorter podcast that I do on the off weeks. And so I'll be, fresh and hot reading those week 1 patch notes right away on that, if you want to get in on that early. Also, another little heads up on the next episode, right, Davius? You're not going to be here?
I will be out. Really exciting stuff. Going to be on a work business trip. So just riveting. No, I will be on the road traveling for work. So I will not have access.
I'm going to want a full report. We're going to put the PTS talk on hold.
Everything holds.
We're going to hear about this business trip.
The next episode will just you be reading a bunch of unanswered questions, and then I'll just follow up the next episode by answering them.
Sounds good. So the next episode, Davius won't be here. I don't know. I might just be here by myself, or I may try to snag a guest or something. We'll see what happens. So Davius, you had a idea of something to talk about here today, something that's been popping up on the forums. It gets discussed a lot, and it's been circulating around here lately. Hybridization.
Yeah.
We've been in this hybridization situation for a long time now. It's the norm now.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to kind of just reflect back and see what we think about it. Is it a good thing? Should we go back to the way it was before or what? Long story short, I like it.
Yeah.
But what do you think, Davies?
Long story short, you're all for it. I'm with you. I think long story short, I do like it. I think the biggest thing for me that I do find myself sometimes missing especially for players like me and you, right? Like we had every class and we had a stamina and a magicka character. And I do find myself sometimes missing that, like, and I don't even know if this is going to make sense when I say it. So we'll see. You may have to make me smart in editing with this. But I do find myself sometimes missing like that simple classification of like, all right, this character is a stamina dragon knight. So like I know that's what this kind of class is. And when the hybridization kind of came around, there's like a lot of my characters that I don't want to say that they just didn't find a use, because I have found builds for them. But it's just, especially some classes, it's just kind of become difficult to still have those characters and find a use for two characters of the same class now. And especially, they've introduced the armory system that realistically you can get the same out of both characters. You don't really need two characters anymore. So it's hard to say that's necessarily a complaint, because I do think that makes it easier, and it makes it easier for players to not have to create whole new characters. But I don't know, maybe it's just the nostalgia in me. Sometimes I do find myself kind of sad of thinking of those kind of classifications that we used to have, of like, this was my stamina Dragon Knight, this is my stamina warden. All that to be said, I do like the hybridization. I do think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's mostly, when you really boil it down to what we're really talking about, I think it's mostly a matter of like understanding the intent of the people who make this game, and I've said this so many times, but it's so very true that it's not an esport. This game is not, they're not trying to make a competitive video game here. If that was the goal, then I do think the old system was better. Where we have magicka builds and stamina builds, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. And, stamina builds had more damage and magicka builds had more support. So like in 1v1 situations, stamina builds would prevail, but in group situations, you needed magicka builds to be around. And that made a lot of sense for like team comp and all that kind of stuff. The direction of the game has evolved quite a bit. Like what the developers want this game to be, in my opinion, is very different from what it was in the beginning. And basically what it is now is it's a social hub. Like this is a place for you and your friends to log in and hang out and dress your characters up in costumes and go to each other's houses. And there's a variety of different activities to do, depending on what your interests are, including PvP. It's one of the things, but it's certainly not the thing that this game is, that they're trying to focus on. I think the much bigger thing that the developers are interested in is allowing you to make the character of your dreams. Any and everything, whatever you can dream up, you can make a character, and it's going to be viable. It's going to work. It's going to perform well. I think that's what they really want for this game, rather than it being like truly competitive, truly, good balance and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. When you're creating a class, like realistically, this is the way I am, and I don't think I'm unique in this regard, in the sense that you pick a class that you want, and you want to be able to use all of the abilities you like for that class. And in the old system, there was just times where it was almost impossible to utilize a stamina and a magic ability on one build. Like, it just didn't work. And so 100% what you just said, character of your dreams, is that this hybridization allowed that. Like, you can go in, find the abilities that you like. And even on the guild skill trees, or, the unique skill trees, is you can find those abilities you like, and you're not tied down to if it's magic or stamina or having to pick a certain morph anymore. Is that you can actually pick all of the abilities that you like and create exactly what you say. Couldn't say it better than that. The character of your dreams. You can create a character that has all the abilities that you like.
Yeah, I think a lot of these types of conversations I think really kind of boil down to, like, are you willing to meet the game on its own terms and accept it for what it is and just have fun with it for what it is? And I think a lot of balance discussions, they really look over that, and the meta changes all the time for a reason. It's intentional. It's by design, and it's supposed to be lopsided. There's always going to be something that's more powerful than everything else on purpose.
Yeah.
And that thing's always going to be changing.
Yeah, and one of the things I always see is that this hybridization has affected the meta, right? Like one of the arguments I see commonly is that, well, now that there's hybridization, there's this singular meta that this is better than anything else, and it's somehow reduced what the meta was. And I would argue that, just the sense that even when there was a split between Stamina and Magicka, there was still a meta. There was still a tip top. There was still certain builds or certain setups that were better than the rest. And so to me, like, I don't know, that mindset doesn't really bother me. Like, it may be, instead of,
Yeah, I just don't think it's true either. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, like, no two Sorc builds are the same,
Right.
Like, I have so many friends that play sorcerers and none of them are the same.
Yeah.
You know,
it's one of the great things about this game is it's so dependent on play style.
Uncle Sam says about the Sorcs, but they all run Kavach Gladiator and 3 Bloodthirsty.
All running
Sam Sorcs,
those
baby.
Sam Sorc.
Yeah, so hybridization, definitely, there's been some things that we've lost as a result, but overall, I think it's been a good thing. And I like being able to make a perfect character, like old Betsy.
Mm-hmm.
She's so perfect. I wouldn't want to go back to what she was before. No way.
Yeah, and she was a Stamplar back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Like full stamina. Yeah. Didn't have any of that support side to her.
Not really. She could throw that cleansing circle on the ground, but that was it.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think that it's good to. I do think we're at a good spot where hybridization's been in the game for a while, and it's kind of been. I want to say kind of vetted out, but I do still think that there's final pieces that they're probably going to work on and still finish out, hopefully.
Grizzicon says he wished they'd finish it out. I mean, there are things that are unfinished, like the fact that like there's like potions don't give you both. Like if you're a real challenge is if you're a mag DK and you want to use potions for your source of weapon damage, well, you can't. Like, DKs want to stack weapon damage specifically, not spell damage. So if you want to use weapon damage potions, then you're not getting Magicka sustain from that.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, and Templars have a similar problem. So there are things like that I wish they would address.
Yeah, and I assume that surely they're going to continue with making those changes. Like, I feel like every couple of patches, they sneak in a couple of just final little hybridization tweaks. And so I assume those are still coming down the road, but I do think overall I like hybridization, and really I think my only kind of holdup is just the nostalgia piece of, like, I did like having kind of the full character list, and you don't really need that many characters now, but if you didn't have that many characters to begin with, it's a much better situation. You don't have to create that many characters anymore.
Yeah, think of it from the perspective of someone who's just starting the game.
Exactly.
It's a smoother experience. As far as builds that we have to talk about, I'm going to level with you guys. I've not been playing a lot of ESO the last week and a half because I've been playing Dragon's Dogma 2. And my characters, I pretty much have my characters more or less the ones that I'm focusing on where I want them. Old Betsy, my main Stamplar. Butch Mahoney's my range Plar. Catface Johnson is my Nightblade. And Intergalactic, my Sorc. They're all doing great. I've talked about all those builds in the last several episodes. They have multiple videos on YouTube. Search for Ket Sparrowhawk. You can go check those out. All the details are there. I just don't want to talk about the same stuff over and over again when nothing's really changed. So, Davius, I know that you have a couple of builds that you want to talk about. So I'll just hand it over to you.
This is wild, right? This has got to be the first time. I think this is the first time ever that I've talked about builds and you haven't talked about builds. This is a new scrolling first.
I kind of like it. I just get to kick back and you do all the work.
Nice. You talk about builds. Yes, so I do have a couple of builds. I've been in full support mode lately. Both the builds I'm talking about are both going to be support builds. I don't know. I've just been playing the healer, been playing support, been having a lot of fun with it.
Hey, that's original old school Davius there.
Yeah, that's where I all started. Back in the day, I only played support. Like, I went, gosh, I don't even know. I
remember when you finally made a damage build. I was like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? This is weird.
Doing damage in the BGs.
Bear Claw, wasn't it?
It was Bear Claw. The Warden was the original damage dealer I made. Nice. And I went, I would say years being support only.
Yeah, I remember.
going with that character, with my original OG. That's the first build I'm going to talk about. It's my MagPlar. Davius Starjumper, got the original name. The Guarplar is the build, one of my favorites.
Yes.
It still holds up, still does it. What the build is it's an Oaken Soul build, 5-piece Cold Harbor's Favorite, 2-piece Engine Guardian, Maelstrom Resto Staff, and then 2-piece Trainee. The bar setup is very simple. It's just Honor the Dead, Radiating Regen, Extended Ritual, and then I do Race Against Time, and then I do Symbiosis. That's the wacky part of the build, I would say. Yep. And then the ult, I do that Templar ult Practice Incantation, and that is the one that kind of lets you still move at a slower speed. But the build still holds up. Like, I've been hopping in BGs with this thing, and it's still working great. That Symbiosis is kind of the wacky part to the Guarplar, is that Cold Harbor's Favorite is the proc set that if you do damage, it procs the damage. If you do heals, it procs the heal. But the Symbiosis, once I kick that on, that's that Sigic Order ability that your light attacks heal. So the Cold Harbor's Favorite only procs the healing part. And so that's constantly proccing.
Yeah, because you only have healing abilities slotted, and then as your light attack weaving, those light attacks are healing people, not damaging people. So there's no chance of the damage proc ever happening.
Exactly. If you do a BG correct on this build, you should have a goose egg 0 on your damage mark. Yeah. You are only healing. You are throwing out heals to your team. Cold Harbor's Favorites proccing out a heal. You've got strong burst heals. You've got strong hots on your team. And I can't stress enough, like, you get the light attack healing weaves in with your other healings, and it does crank out pretty good healing.
It's a great ability, and you can heavy attack with it to get magicka back, just like a normal heavy attack, and it's healing while you're doing that.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's a very strong heal too. So yeah, it works out really well. This build's still holding up great. Like, I have no changes on it. Still having a lot of fun. Still works really well, and still effective. And the healing numbers are still pretty great. And it's just, I don't know. There's something fun about, we talk a lot about certain Oaken Soul builds of just like, you've got one goal to do, and that's what you're about. And this is that to a T. Your goal is to heal your team. You don't even worry. You're not even doing 1 point of damage. Like, you were just focusing on heals, focusing on those low health bars. It can make even sweaty BGs with this build can be pretty fun, just because all you're looking at is your teammates' health bars. You're not even worried about, having to deal damage, or even if you see low health bars. Like,
I love healing on Oaken Soul builds. It's so you just put the blinders on and you're just very singular focused.
Absolutely. Grizzly Khan asked what jewelry traits. I actually do infused jewelry traits on all 3, just to kind of get the weapon damage up and the sustain up, just to get those numbers a little bit higher. And that's the Guarplar. Still holding up, still going strong. I'm never changing from it.
Man, from days past, he's come all the way back. That's great.
All the way back, and he's better than ever.
Nice, man.
The secondary build I want to talk about is one that I've mentioned, but it isn't. It is built. It is live. The MagDen build is finished out. The Natural Nord, or Natty Nord, as old Natty Nord, as we'll call him. And really what this is that, and I got to take the term because this term's already been defined, but basically this is my take on the support battery build. And the battery build involves that Crypt Cannon's Vestment, where you're giving your ult out. And so what the build is the Crypt Cannon's Vestments, 5-piece Drake's Rush, 5-piece Wretched Vitality, the Maelstrom Resto, and then 1-piece Magma Incarnate. So let's just
hold on.
Yeah, let's say it.
I'm counting multiple bars here.
You're counting the amount of bars that are happening on this build, and that's right. You got to 2. This is a double bar build by Davius.
I never thought I'd see it again.
It is the 2-bar build because the Crypt Cannons, that's your mythic. Can't have 2 mythics. So Polar Wind, Radiating Regen are the main heals you're throwing out there. I also, I got to have a little wackiness. I can't just have simple. I got to get a little bit wacky. And so I have Nature's Grasp on there, as well as Shielded Assault, because I have to have a sword and board with the Drake's Rush to. I don't have to, but I like to. I have the bash where I'm kicking on that Drake's Rush. And so I actually have Nature's Grasp and Shielded Assault. And so this really allows a ping pong effect, because I can basically gap close to an enemy and then gap close to a teammate. And so it really creates this really fun.
That's fun.
It creates this really fun ping pong effect of I literally can just bounce around all over the battlefield. If I got an ally, I can tie myself to them. If there's an enemy I need to go bash, I'll gap close to them, bash, and then I'll hop right back to my team.
I never even thought about putting a regular gap closer and the friendly gap closer on a warded. That's so funny.
It is a lot of fun. It is it's a very ping pong effect, and it works beautifully. I'm having so much fun. And that, like, I have to say, if you haven't tried the Crypt Cannon's Vestment, it is a very, very cool mythic.
I bet.
For one thing that I didn't realize is that when you equip it, it takes the place of your ultimate ability. So it actually like creates an ability that takes the place of where your ultimate is.
Oh, there's like a different icon on that slot? Okay.
Yeah, because my original plan was to throw the bear on there. I thought that was going to be a loophole. Can't do that. Like it equips an ability for you. But you can almost spam it. Like when I've played this build, like there is a cooldown, but it is a very, very minimal cooldown. Like surprisingly low, because I'll spam this thing when I have 15 ultimate, or I'll hit it when I have 120 ultimate. And so I'm just constantly just spewing out ultimate. And yeah, I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with this verb here, spewing out ultimate onto the team.
Okay. Spewing
ultimate out onto the team. I've been in a match in Sam, and I said I was spitting ultimate at him. So
okay, spitting, just spewing. It's a messy
ultimate. Yeah,
it's a messy situation with ultimate.
It's just ultimate for everybody. But I have to say, the battery type build with the Crypt Cannons, it is so much fun. You really do feel like you can just constantly be churning out ultimate for your team. And on a Warden, it works so well. Like I've got so many good heals that I feel like I can still maintain good support, with that shielded assault ability. Like I can stun enemies just all the time, so I'm just gap closing, stunning, bashing them for the Drake's Rush. And with that Drake's Rush, being a Nord, having the Crypt Cannons on that gives you actually minor heroism, it's just my ult is just constantly going. So I'm getting
I forgot about the minor heroism. Mm-hmm. That's right.
So when this build's running, it's got minor heroism, major heroism, and you're just constantly giving it away.
Oh, man, that minor heroism's a nice little cherry on top. Yeah, that's nice.
It's really nice. That was originally what made me get the idea to pair it with Drake. Because I do think you could swap Drakes out for Arcasis. Would be a great swap. I think that would work out perfectly. But
if you already have the major.
Yeah, that was kind of where I came from, is that if I've got minor and I got major, not only am I giving my teammates major heroism, but I'm giving myself major heroism that I'm just turning around and giving them. So they're getting major heroism plus the ult that I'm giving them.
Yes, essentially, if you have major heroism, they essentially have it too, right? Yeah, effectively.
But Drake's Rush gives your whole teammate major heroism. So by them having the buff and me having the buff, I'm almost giving it to them twice, because I'm just turning around and giving all the ult I'm generating back to them. So
they're kind of doubled. They basically have it twice then. Yeah, that's cool.
A good old double dip situation.
Man, that's neat.
Yeah, so that build's been a lot of fun. I still, like I said, I still need to do a lot of testing, kind of tweak. I need to get more, brush off the cobwebs of running a double bar build. But it's been a lot of fun. It's worked out really well.
Grizzly Khan says, Crypt Cannon is so fun. Love my ult battery build. So for the second half of the podcast here, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. You remember how a couple of years ago when Elden Ring came out and this temporarily became an Elden Ring podcast? A similar situation with Dragon's Dogma 2. Not quite to that extreme. I was obsessed with Elden Ring. I mean, that was just an amazing video game. Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm enjoying it very, very, very much.
But you wouldn't go as far to say obsessed.
No, I mean there maybe was a period of time that I would have used the word obsessed, but I think that has passed, and I'm really just very much enjoying it now. But I'm kind of already at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of understand what this game is, and I'm, once it's done, I'll be ready for it to be done, and I'll move on. But it's not to say it's not an amazing video game. Highly recommend it to anybody who is interested in a single player open world fantasy RPG. It's very much one of those, and I think that's maybe one of the notable things about it is like the world that it takes place in is it's very cliche. I mean, it's castles and wizards and knights in shining armor and dragons and fair maidens, and all that stuff. And it's very like a medieval setting, very straightforward kind of European fantasy setting. But it's almost like they lean so hard into that cliche that it comes full circle to being almost like unique and special again, just because of how so perfectly well they nail that aesthetic. Because that's a setting you've seen a gajillion times in so many video games, So you're thinking like, how can they make that interesting without putting some weird twist on this, what's going on in this fantasy world? But it really is just straightforward, just like you're reading it from a fairy tale book, but it's just rendered so well. So I thought I would compare it, just kind of make a comparison to like other RPGs that we're familiar with, like Skyrim, Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring. I think the main thing that sets Dragon's Dogma 2 apart, and by the way, I never played Dragon's Dogma before. This is my first time jumping in on this series. But the main thing that sets it apart is it has a very deep companion system. They don't call them companions, they call them pawns. But they're basically companions, and the whole game revolves around this companion system. When you first start the game, you make your character. There's a whole character creation, very deep character creation thing. And then you go through the exact same character creation for your main companion, your main pawn.
Oh.
It's all the same level of detail with their appearance. You choose their class, their personality traits, all the exact same choices you make for your own character. And then this is your main companion that's going to be your best bestie for this entire game. They're going to follow you everywhere you go. Every time you level up, they level up too. Every time you assign skills for yourself, you're going to assign skills for them. It's all the same skills that you have access to. And all the same gear that you could equip for yourself, you can equip for them. And so you're building two characters throughout this entire game. And really the idea is you would want to synergize. Like for mine, I'm playing a thief for my main character, a very DPS focused class, or vocation is what they call it. And then my main pawn is a mage that has a lot of heals plus some extra damage and stuff as well. So we synergize very, very nicely. But you have a party of 4. So it's yourself, your main pawn, and then you hire 2 additional pawns to complete your party of 4. And what's interesting is those 2 pawns that you hire were created by other players in the same way that you created your main pawn. And so you bring them into your party and they're following you around and everything. But since you didn't create them, like you don't have really much control over their build or anything. Like they don't level up or anything like that. So you outgrow those pawns. They end up kind of being disposable or just temporary. They're going to help you with like maybe 2 or 3 quests. And then you're going to find some other pawn that's more powerful than them that you can swap them out for, So you kind of have it's you and your best bestie. You're your main duo, and then you're swapping out those other 2 as you go. And so your little squad there is just constantly evolving and changing throughout the entire game. It's also like you can change your class anytime. Like you pick a class to start with, but it's super cheap and easy. Anytime you want, you can change your class and your main pawn's class as much as you like. You can try out all kinds of different things. And they really want you to do that. Like, it's not really a game about min-maxing, it doesn't seem like to me. Like, when you pick out a class or a vocation, it levels up very, very quickly. It's not like you're leveling this thing up all the way till the very end of the game and then you're at your most powerful. Like, you reach that peak pretty quick and then you just pick up another class to check that out and see what that's all about. And the game keeps telling you to do that. Like, hey, why don't you try something different this time? It seems like they're really just wanting you to, every time you go out on a quest, just try some different stuff and see what happens. It plays out very, very, very much like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Like when you're sitting down at a table with friends doing some D&D, like the adventure that you're having in your imagination it's like what this game is. It's kind of what it feels like to me. It has a very lighthearted tone, very like, we're going on an adventure, here we go, that kind of stuff. Another way that it stands apart from those other games that it has a very penalizing saving system. To where it really teaches you early, or it taught me really early on, like you want to plan ahead. You want to take a look at this quest you have in front of you, think about what kind of supplies you're going to need on that journey, bring those things along with you, and really plan out your trip, because if not, you can get yourself in a bad situation that you really can't get out of, and it auto saves constantly. So, and there are not multiple save files. So, if you want to load from the last save, chances are that was just 10 seconds ago, and you're just in the same situation still. Or you can load from the last time that you slept at an inn, which is in town. That might have been 3 hours ago, or whenever you just thought to do that. If you do that, you're going to lose all that progress and everything. So a lot of times you'll be in a situation where you have to decide, okay, do I want to reload from the last save, which doesn't actually help me, or reload from the last inn location, which is going to lose 3 hours of progress, or do I just want to pick up the pieces and move on with the situation as it is? And that's really, most of the time, that's the best decision you can make. And I think that's what the game is wanting you to do, is this is your story. If this party member of yours dies, that's tragic or whatever, that does suck, but hey, that's your story. You got to pick up the pieces and move on. And
that's kind of wild.
And go from there. Yeah, and you learn lessons from that. Like, okay, that sucked. I don't want that guy. I didn't want that guy to die. I'm not going to let that happen again.
Did you
figure out how to avoid that.
Some painstaking pawn deaths?
Yeah, I lost some. Now, if you lose your main pawn, they always come back at some point. But your hireable pawns, you can lose those and not find them again. It's not that big a deal since they're basically disposable anyway, but some of them you get really attached to and they're really, really good, and it sucks to lose them. So the saving system is very penalizing, but it's on purpose, and they're trying to get you to approach the game in a certain way. And I think once you do that and you accept that, that's where the real fun really begins, I think, because it really is that kind of like preparation and planning beforehand. Then you go do the thing, and then there's like an aftermath where you're like taking stock and figuring out your inventory and figuring out all the valuables you got along the way and all that stuff. There really is kind of two parts of the game. There's the quest itself, and then there's like the before and after stuff that you're doing that takes up a lot of gameplay as well. Grizzly says, I'm a basic bitch. The European medieval fantasy setting is my Ren Fairs. Yeah, dude. Same here, man. I love it. I love it so much. It's such just a cool atmosphere. And this game, as far as just like the vibe and aesthetics and the atmosphere of that, it's so perfect. Like you go into the towns, you go into like taverns and stuff, and it feels very immersive, like you really can just kind of hang out there and enjoy the vibe and
how about soundtrack? Good soundtrack on the game?
Oh yeah, it's very, just like orchestral, kind of adventurous style music. Yeah, it's good. Difficulty, not very difficult. I would not say it's a difficult game at all. There are challenging moments, certainly. I've died a few times, but it's mostly just a matter of, I see what I did there. Okay, I'll get it in the second try, or I'm just not leveled up enough to do this right now, and I'll come back later. There's really not any. There are mechanics and stuff like that, but so far, none of it seems like stuff that I really have to pay super close attention to. I can just kind of brute force my way through a lot of the time. Story is nothing special, honestly. For this kind of game, it's really more about the experience and like the emergent storytelling. While you're out, in the wilderness on your way to the quest objective, there's all sorts of things that happen along the way there, and that's the real story that's happening. The actual story is just very standard, boilerplate, cloak and dagger fantasy story, It's good. It's good enough. It's serviceable. It gives you an excuse to have this adventure, But I don't think the story is really the compelling thing here. It's a very corny game in a charming way. It's like cute in like how corny it is. A couple of examples. Let me see if I can think of a couple here. So, like, for one, like these pawns, these little companions that follow you around, they love you so much. Like, you're basically, your character is the chosen one, essentially, in this game. And all these pawns are just completely devoted to you. And you'll just be walking around and they'll just randomly say, I feel no greater peace than when I'm by your side. And you're just like, okay,
sure.
that's cool.
That's great. Love to hear it.
Me too.
Love to hear it.
There's one kind of call out that they'll do sometimes, like if you're fighting a boss or something and it's all this like real intense, like this music's all played, it's super epic, you know, and like when the boss just has barely any health left and one of your pawns is about to deliver the killing blow, they'll shout out, your character's name is the Arisen. You're called the Arisen. Okay. So the pawn will shout out, "This is for you, Arisen!" Like do the final killing
cheering
blow.
Your name, battle crying your name.
Yeah, they're just they just love the Arisen so much. It's very corny, but it's fun. It's part of the charm. It's on purpose, I think.
Yeah.
My biggest criticism is the menus are super slow and just very sluggish, poorly designed. There's certain menus I just don't know how they work. Even still, like, I mean, tens of hours into this game, I don't know how the trading screen, like when I interact with an NPC and I'm trying to trade items back and forth, I do not understand how that screen works. I just kind of push a bunch of buttons until it happens. And I, even after it happens, I'm like, I don't know why that happened, but
a good old button mash.
That's my biggest criticism there. A few tips for anyone who might be wanting to check out this game, which I strongly recommend. Be a thief for your class. They do an absolute ton of damage. They're pretty much OP compared to the other classes. I've tried a few of the others. The biggest thing I like about the thief, aside from the fact that they do a ton of damage, it's the only class I've tried so far that doesn't really have any like charge up times or cast times or anything to their abilities. Like they're very quick and snappy, and you push the button and it happens right away. And it's very zippy. Like if you play like a warrior, you know, they have like a big hammer or whatever, and there's like big long wind-ups and everything's very slow. And I mean, it's a lot of damage, but it's very slow. Even the archer, which you would think is being like quick and nimble, all their abilities are like really drawing that bowstring back, and it's like a cast time, you know. And everything's real slow. The thief is the only one I've tried so far that's real quick and zippy, and plus the damage is out of control. And then I would make your main pawn a mage, just so that you have a healer that's following you around. And you can give them healing and damage abilities, which is what I do. And they're actually really smart. Like as far as combat goes, these companions they're better than I am. I'm not even kidding. Like they straight up are carrying me through these fights. And then those other two, like the pawns that you hire on, you can just kind of experiment with. And I think that's what you're supposed to do. Just try, okay, let's bring an archer on board this time, and let's get a fighter this time, or let's try 3 mages this time, or whatever. Some other tips. Sleep at inns or at your home frequently. Okay, like after every little thing you do. It may seem silly, but there've been so many times, like I was talking about a minute ago, where I'm out in the wilderness and I'm in a bad situation and I can't get out of it, and I want to go back to the last time I slept at an inn, but that was 3 hours ago. And dang it, if I'd only remembered to sleep one last time before I left town, you know. And even things like, you know, like you level up some gear and you unlock some skills and you just sort of like tweak your build and tweak your squad and do these little housekeeping things. If you forget to sleep after that and then you have to go back to the inn, it's like you forgot all those things that you did and it's all undone now and you have to remember to go do it all again. Just sleep at every little thing you do. Just go to the inn or go to your home and sleep. That way you know that worst case scenario, you're starting from there. I've learned that lesson. I've had to learn that lesson a few times. It's very frustrating. Oh, and one more tip, pause. It's like if you've played Breath of the Wild, it's like that. You can pause anytime, and there's all kinds of stuff in your inventory that you're picking up without even realizing it as you're questing and stuff. All sorts of stuff that's in your inventory that's going to help you out in a bad situation. So if things are looking dire, just pause, take a look through that inventory. Like even your companions, they're constantly looting stuff as well as they're walking around. So there might be something in their inventory that you can take and use as well. So just pause very, very frequently. And there you go. That's my Dragon's Dogma 2 gush. It's a great video game. Highly recommend it.
So let me ask you this: as somebody who I haven't played Dragon's Dogma 2, don't own it, but also haven't played Elden Ring and don't own it.
Okay.
You got to pick one. If I'm picking one, which one? Like, what's my priority list?
For you, Davius Starjumper, Dragon's Dogma 2.
Wow, that's 100%.
Big.
That's big. And I get it. You're saying just based on what you know. Obviously, we know each other really well. But like, even still, like, I think that's big. Like, even knowing my style of game, that's big that you're putting it over Elden Ring.
Elden Ring is like a work of art. It's like it's a masterpiece. It really it's like I hesitate to even call it a video game. It's like that's just like the form that this masterpiece happens to take. This is just like just a fun romp.
Yeah.
It's a good time. I don't know if I would call it a masterpiece, but it's like the most picture perfect one of these kind of games ever made.
What's your playtime through? Like beginning to end, start the game to where you feel good, you finish the game out. Like, what do you think that time frame is?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe 100 hours. I don't even know. I don't even know how long I've played so far. I can pull up Steam and see. I would estimate it's maybe going to be about 100-hour journey.
Yeah.
Once it's all said and done. But I'm going to look and see where I'm at right now. That might be on the money. I'm at 53.2 hours right now.
And you feel like you're about halfway through?
Actually, I feel like I'm maybe like 2/3 of the way through. So we might end up like around the 80-hour mark there. But then there's a lot of side stuff and a lot of parts of the map I haven't explored yet. So if I want to, I bet I could hit that 100 hours pretty easily if I do explore every little cave and all that stuff.
Nice. Okay.
Which I very well may do.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good. I feel like that's a good amount of time. I feel like for like a single player RPG, that's a good amount of time for a game.
Grizzly Cotton's saying 80 hours is what he read. Yeah, I feel like if I get 60, that's like my money's worth, like $1 per hour, basically.
Yeah, it's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so we'll get back to Elder Scrolls Online related stuff, sort of. Emails, scrollingpodcast@gmail.com is our email address. We would love to hear from you. You can make some suggestions for the show, ask us a question, tell us a joke, say hello, shout out to a friend. Food-related questions, always welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Scrollingpodcast@gmail.com is the email address. We got a last-minute email from Chumpy. We didn't think we were going to get it. It just came in just in time to make it in. So this is from Chumpy. He says, "Gee Willikers, gang, I almost got too busy to send the fortnightly email." Remember, Fortnite was a word before the game existed, guys.
That is true. That's very true.
Chumpy says, "I hope everyone's Easter was absolutely beautiful and brilliant and chocolate-filled. Speaking of chocolate, such a magical thing, give me a chocolate-themed addition to ESO that you would add if you had the power. Could be anything from a skill line to a potion or whatever." That's a weird. I've racked my brain for this. The only thing I can really think of that makes any kind of sense would be like a chocolatier themed like housing bundle and like fashion package kind of thing.
Okay.
I could see that sort of thing happening.
I thought of a chocolate skin. Turn your character into you look like a chocolate,
okay.
Like the chocolate bunny. Like your character gets the chocolate skin.
Okay, I was imagining like dripping like a syrupy chocolate.
You could go that way too. I was thinking more of like the actual carved chocolate.
Okay,
but
I could see that.
they're always adding in new skins. I could see that as kind of a holiday themed skin.
Oh yeah, sure. You could have the little carved like the bunny rabbit stuff. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean anything else would just be jokes. I mean we could think of a chocolatier class or something like that, but I don't really see that happening. But yeah, like a housing and fashion bundle. I could actually legit like maybe for like a Valentine's Day special or something like that. I could actually see that happening.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good idea.
Then Chumpy asks, "Tell me your favorite chocolate treat." What do you got, Davius?
Well, I feel like that I'm going to be now. You're just going to have to hear me out on this because I feel like I'm going to lose a lot of people real quickly.
Yeah, okay.
I've recently come across this, but I'm telling you, if you're brave enough to try them, they are so incredibly good. The name of it, they're called dark chocolate, which is a key. Me and you are both big dark chocolate people.
Love it.
Dark chocolate keto clusters.
Okay.
So hold on.
Here we go with the keto.
Let me read you what's in here.
Are cocoa beans actually involved?
Well, they got the dark chocolate. So let me tell you what's in here, because this is where I feel like we're really going to lose people. But so we got quinoa, pumpkin and sunflower seeds, pecans and almonds. So all of those that are like chopped up and minced up, and then it's like bundled together, like poured dark chocolate that like bundles and ties it all together. It's just these clusters of all those different seeds with dark chocolate. I'm telling you, it is delicious. It is delicious.
Okay, I'm gonna try that thing you just said, and I'm gonna give you a Snickers candy bar, and let's just gauge each other's reactions.
Let's just test it out. Let's put them side by side, and we'll just see what happens. I'm telling you. The dark chocolate keto clusters.
Oh, hey, what's your favorite chocolate treat? Oh, quinoa pumpkin seed.
Delicious. You just got to try them. They're so good. They're so good. I'm telling you, once you try it, you'll understand. Delicious little treat that I've stumbled across recently.
I love those little Lindt truffles. Oh my God. I will eat a bag of those suckers. The blue ones, that's the dark chocolate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, an actual real like not healthy chocolate treat, Davius, is what we're looking for here. We're not looking for health. We're not looking for a salad.
That was the goal we were going for.
My favorite chocolate treat is a fresh garden salad with 5 chocolate chips dropped inside,
with just sprinkled, just chocolate shavings sprinkled over the top.
Dark chocolate with salted caramel. That's some good stuff.
Salted caramel with some dark chocolate. You can't go wrong with that. That's going to be good.
A really good, just simple chocolate treat is the classic Hershey's with almonds.
Oh, yeah. Delicious.
Just a Hershey's bar with whole almonds in there.
Good
just
stuff.
Nice, simple goodness.
I'll hit you with another simple. Just the old Hershey's Kiss. Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get those.
Hershey's Kiss with almonds.
Yeah, Hershey's Kiss with almonds. You can get those in dark chocolate with almonds. There you go.
Oh my God. Forget about it.
I'll tell you what.
Dude, the best thing about Hershey's Kisses is there's like 10,000 varieties of them. There's like so many different flavors and
I bet there's
swirly things.
Yeah, I bet there's a salted caramel one. Probably.
Oh, gotta be.
It probably
There's
exists.
no way there's not. 100% there is. A lot of them are like not chocolate at all. They're like mint.
I'm not a big mint and chocolate guy. I know that's a popular one.
I am. I love Andy's mint.
Oh, see, it's not bad. It's just it's not my go-to.
It is the opposite of bad. And Andy's mint.
It's the opposite of bad.
They're so good.
I'll eat it, but it's got to be my only option. If there's other options on the table, I'm taking those other options.
All right. How do you feel about like nuts in a brownie? Nuts or no nuts?
I'll tell you what, I might go for some dark chocolate keto clusters. I've got my sunflower seeds and pumpkins and pecans and almonds.
Nuts. I got my quinoa.
I got the quinoa. Like I've got everything I need in there. I'll tell you what.
Oh boy. What a life you're living over there. Have I ever told you about the time my friend came over and asked me if I wanted a burrito? Like he was on his way over and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to get a burrito. You want one?"
Okay.
And I'm like,
"You say
heck
yes,
yeah, I want a burrito."
It sounds
delicious. Say no? He's like, "Sweet. I got you." He shows up with this thing, dude. Okay, it's like instead of refried beans, it's like a mashed up sweet potato. Okay, and there's like bean sprouts. I'm pretty sure there's quinoa in there. And it's like this health wrap thing.
Did he make it?
No, I think he bought it. I think he bought it like at a health food store or something. But, he called it a burrito.
You were livid.
He shows up to my house with this thing. Like, this is not a burrito, sir. This is a salad.
You're furious at this point.
This is
you're
a salad
expecting
inside
a
of a
burrito.
tortilla.
You were wanting a burrito, you're craving a burrito at this point, and this is what was delivered.
Yeah, and then it's like I'm going to go over to your house. You're like, yo, want some pizza? I'm like, yeah, I want some pizza. No, dude, you're going to be bringing out this cauliflower crust and
hey, I'll tell you
whatever.
What, the cauliflower crust ain't too bad. It ain't too bad, that cauliflower crust. I just tell people that if you eat these items enough, your taste buds just die. Like they die off, and they don't know any better.
They don't know any better.
They don't know any better. Cauliflower is delicious.
I'm going to give you a Snickers, and you're going to lose your mind one day.
I'm going to turn into Gollum from Lord of the Rings just instantly. It's just going to be an instant change.
You'll just be like, you'll be homeless 3 weeks later.
Oh gosh, I still regret. All away. Yeah, I still regret giving Davies that Snickers. He really changed after that.
Meltingly chocolate. I mean, Chumpy. Thanks for writing, Chumpy.
Great.
Good to hear from you as always.
Chumpy.
Grizzly says, first time my mom gave us mashed cauliflower instead of mashed potatoes, I literally cried. Yeah, forget that.
Hey, you probably couldn't tell the difference, Chris.
I don't like food that's pretending to be other food. You know what I mean? Like, just be what you are, okay? You're cauliflower. You're supposed to be the little white broccoli looking thing, okay? That's cauliflower. That's what you are. We have a guild. The guild's name is Stoon's Goons. It is literally the best PvP guild in the game. And it is the best named guild on the PC NA, Xbox NA, and PlayStation NA servers. We're on all three, baby.
We're cross-platform at this point.
As long as you're not in Europe, you're in.
Yeah. It's a strict policy we have.
Yeah, no Europeans.
Unless somebody's on the European server wants to join and start up the goons over there. Then we're all for it.
And then we're all in with the Europeans. All in. Love the Europeans.
We love Europe at that point.
We're also the official guild of the Scrollin' Podcast. If you'd like to join, send us an email at scrollinpodcast@gmail.com and we'll get you in there. If your guild list is full, or if you're on the European server and you can't play with us in game, you can just join our Discord. Everybody who's on the Discord we consider to be a fully fledged goon. So scrollinpodcast@gmail.com and we'll get you into the Discord or the guild or both. If you would like to support our show, one easy way you can do that is go to the Apple Podcast app and give us a star rating and especially a written review. It helps us out quite a bit. If you'd want to go a step further than that, as I mentioned earlier, you can go to patreon.com/scrollinpodcast and sign up to receive Stoon's Boon for $3 a month. It gives you access to a few things, including the Boon Cast, which is a shorter solo podcast that I do on the off weeks. You can also, if you're in the guild in-game, you can drop stuff into the guild bank, gold, crafting mats, tri-stat potions. Anything you think might be helpful, just drop it in there. And be sure and let us know if you do, so we don't just let it sit in there. And the very best thing anybody can do is just be a part of our community. Come be our friend, hang out with us, play ESO with us, talk about ESO with us. All those conversations and experiences and everything are what fuels conversations on this show. So that's the biggest help that anybody can do, is just come hang out with us on Discord. Shout out to the chat. We had Grizzly Khan, Brandon, Uncle Sam, FK was in here.
King Nar.
Thank you guys for being here. Another shout out to FK. He gave us a 1 million gold donation in the guild bank. Really appreciate it, dude.
Oh, nice.
And some extra shout outs to Uncle Sam, King Nar, Sir Newbie, Maddie Quinn, 60, Sudica, a bunch of others. Just good friends of ours, people we've been playing with a lot lately. Really great people to be around. You guys make this guild awesome. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Elder Goons, the OGs, our friends. Thank you guys for being around for so long. And shout out to our Stoon's Boon recipients, our Patreon supporters, Pork Body, Toadster, Gummy Bear, Grizzly Khan, Thomas, Taggart, Mother of Dragons, Sudica, Jim, Maxwell, Turpin Stuff, Dudagon, Brewerman, Brock, Redhead Monster, Chumpy, and two new ones, John E. Danger and Odin.
Nice. Fantastic.
Thank you all so much. We're up to 19 now.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't think we'd ever get more than like my best friend and my mom. Anyway, I think that is the end of our podcast here. Anything else before we go, Davius?
I think that's everything.
Okay, thank you all very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.